What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger of a video. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And also, a big announcement. We've got a grinder drop coming this Saturday, just a couple days away on the 3rd of September. At 4:20 p.m. Pacific, I'm going to be dropping a small batch, very small, of only 50 grinders. Now, the reason these are dropping is because we have leftover parts from the previous only gas grinder drop. So these grinders are going to be sold at a discount of 30% off, and also they won't be numbered like the original ones. The original ones were numbered out of 200. These will not be numbered at all because these are just spare parts, but that's why we're selling them at 30% off. There's only 50 available, so make sure you have the page bookmarked. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll tweet out the link as the time gets closer. Twitter and Instagram are going to be the only places I post the links, so make sure if you want to get one of these grinders, you follow me on Twitter or Instagram and have notifications on. Also, real quick before we dive into the video, let's take a brief moment for our sponsor. Winning season has officially returned, and with the NFL preseason, there's plenty of opportunities to win at MyBookie. Whether you're seasoned or a first-timer, MyBookie gets you the most for your money with a double deposit bonus up to $1,000. All you got to do is sign up using code GOBLIN on your first deposit, and you'll instantly double that deposit at MyBookie. Head over to MyBookie today, and don't miss out on all of the preseason action. The NFL season is just getting started. Get into it early and have some fun. Good luck to all of you, and don't forget to use code GOBLIN at sign up. Big shout out to MyBookie. Don't forget to use code GOBLIN. Now let's dive into the video. So this happened back in the fall of 2017, and at this point, I had just gotten off probation. I was out of high school at this point, and I had pretty much nothing to do all day. On top of that, I had a fair bit of money saved up from being on probation and not really doing too many drugs. So my drug use was very few and far between. I wasn't smoking at all, which was the vast majority of my expenses when it came to my drug use. So now that I was off probation, I was starting to have some fun again. Now, on this fateful day, it had only been maybe a couple weeks after I finally got off probation and was done being drug tested. My buddy Michael, him and I were talking a little bit, and he hit me up and asked if I wanted to hang out. Now, I hadn't seen this guy in a very long time at this point. We were more so friends when I was in high school and before I went to rehab, but we kind of stopped talking when I stopped smoking and doing a lot of stuff because I was just busy doing other stuff. I had to keep myself distracted and busy with my job in order to not think about smoking weed all day. So I kind of stopped hanging out with a lot of the same people that I used to for that brief period. But this was like my first time going to link up with Michael again, and he was like, dude, I have some goodies. We're going to have a fun night, and I was all for it. So I hopped in my car, and I drove over to Michael's house, and Michael had some homies already there waiting, so it was a fun night ahead. Now, my weed tolerance at this point, this was not my first time smoking after probation. I had definitely smoked multiple times before this, but my tolerance was still so low that I didn't even need to finish a whole blunt to be absolutely glued. I mean, I was still at the point where I could smoke like a half gram and be absolutely blasted. That phase didn't last very long. I'd say only about a month after I got off probation before I was at like nearly full tolerance again. Maybe a little longer than a month because I really tried to squeeze what I could out of that, but it didn't last long because I'm not good at controlling myself. Like, once I have a little bit of weed, no, dude, I'm smoking every day. I don't know how I did it on probation. I think it was the fear of violating probation, but either way, back on topic here. So I got to Michael's house, and the homies are there, pulled up, posted up. It's only about 3 or 4 of us, but it's enough of us to have a good time. We got Bill up in the function. We got Paul up in the function. The homies are there, ladies and gentlemen. So we're chilling out. We're having a good time, and they were having some drinks. Now, I wasn't really trying to drink on this particular night, but I was trying to get stoned. I was, like I mentioned before, still, such a lightweight when it came to smoking that getting crossfaded and driving home was just out of the question. Like, 2 beers and then a blunt would absolutely KO me at this point in my life. So he's like, oh, okay, no problem. Let's just smoke a little weed. Now, they've got the bong out. Michael's absolutely disgusting China bong. I'm talking, he maybe cleaned this thing like twice. The water was never clear. I don't even know. I think yellow might even be generous for the condition of that water. But back in these days, none of us really cared, I mean, a bong's a bong. That's how we looked at it. So We packed up the bong and I took a rip, and immediately I was feeling fantastic. One of my favorite things about, that brief period of my life where I had no tolerance was I felt like the full-fledged high would just hit me immediately. Like, I would take a rip, and before I was even done exhaling, I'd just be like, oh, shit, Still, nowadays, if I take a rip of some good stuff, I might feel a little something before I'm even done exhaling, but nothing at that level. I mean, I'd be full-on stoned before the shit was out of my lungs, It was different. It was a magical time in my life. So I take this rip, and I'm feeling fantastic. I'm feeling so good. We're chilling out for a little bit, and finally, Michael tells me that he's going to pick some shit up. Couple other people there throwing down. I remember Bill threw down some. They were grabbing some Molly. So I was a little bit intrigued. Now, it had been a very long time since I'd done Molly. A very long time. So I didn't want to do very much. I didn't want to take like a 0.2 or a quarter gram or something. I wanted just a little pointer, like a 0.1, just to get me going. So that's all I got. I was like, yo, I'm not really going to buy any, but if you guys grab and you're willing to throw me a 0.1, I'll pay you for it. And that's how it all played out. They had their plug pull up. I don't know who this guy was because I just sat in the house all the time, but Michael came back in with a nice little bag of Molly. I think they bought about a gram collectively. I don't know exactly how much it was, but I don't remember it looking very big. I highly doubt it was more than a gram, maybe a gram and a half. It was not very much Molly. So they bring it back in, and we're all sitting in Michael's room chilling out. And this is where the fun really begins. Now, at this point, I was still very stoned, I wasn't like not able to function, but I was very stuck, I mean, if you brought out some moderately difficult questions, for example, if you asked me, like, do the alphabet backwards like they do in the DUI test, I don't think I could get further than, like, 3 letters deep, But either way, I was still functional. That functional, kind of what's the word? That functionalness? That's not a fucking word. I don't know. That ability to function did not last much longer than this. You see, we busted out this Molly pretty quickly, and I took my 0.1. We didn't have capsules. We did it the old-fashioned way. Just put that shit, just eat it. Put that shit on your tongue and eat it. Now, this is obviously my least favorite way to do Molly because the taste is absolutely rancid. I don't think it's quite as bad as Xanax, personally. I think Xanax tastes a little bit worse because with Molly, it's like I hate the taste, but I can get it down. Xanax, I will genuinely gag. Like, if I taste it, I'm going to throw up. I have to down it super quickly. But Molly still has just this disgusting chemical taste. It tastes like you went into Dexter's laboratory and just drank out of his trash bin. Like, absolutely rancid flavor. I don't know what to compare it to. There is no comparison that I've tasted yet. Maybe in the future. Dude, when are they dropping Molly 2? Like, when are we getting new Molly? I can't wait. Dude, we're alive in a crazy era of technology. We're going to see Molly 2 in our lifetimes. What a crazy thought. All right, either way, back on topic. So, Molly is it's a rancid flavor, and I eat it just straight up, no capsule, nothing, and wash it down as quick as I can with some water. Now, once that's down the hatch, I'm sitting there for maybe 15 or 20 minutes. We're chilling out, and out of nowhere, Paul busts out the dab rig. I didn't know this guy even brought a rig. I didn't even know they had concentrate. I didn't know they had any wax. But Paul busts out the rig. He heats it up and he takes a dab for himself, and then he offers one to me. And I was very excited about this. You see, like I've mentioned a million times already, my tolerance was not ready for dabs. I was not at the point where a dab would do anything except completely incapacitate me. But I was very willing to take it because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm about to come up on the Molly that I took. I also could take this dab, and then the come up would be very intense and borderline terrifying, but in a kind of fun way, and that got me excited, so I was down. Now, he busted out some of the most rancid-looking wax I've ever seen. These were still the days where me and my friends were smoking that garbage. We didn't have medical cards. We didn't have access to good concentrate. Rosin, I don't even think we knew what rosin was back in these days, but we had this Dookie Shatter, dark brown, the classic consistency. Most of our friend group got it from the same person every time because there weren't a lot of wax plugs back in the day, you know? I mean, if you found someone who sold concert, there was one guy I knew who made his own shit. And I mean, it was better than the dookie wax we were smoking, but it still wasn't very great, you know? Looking back at it, I don't know how I smoked that shit, but you know what? We did. So my boy Paul scrapes me a nice, generous dab. I couldn't tell you how big this dab was, but it was big enough to get me right, especially at this point in my life. He heats up the banger probably to infinity and beyond. I don't know what temperature, but back then, our rule was if it wasn't red hot, it probably wasn't ready for the dab yet, which also, looking back at it, was the dumbest shit we could have ever thought. I don't know how we thought that was reasonable, dude. I mean, come on, dude. But we didn't know, dude. No one had, like, terp timers or temp guns back then. We didn't have the money for that shit. Those things cost like $150, dude. Back then, if I had $150, I'm buying some fucking weed, dude. But either way, back on topic here. So he drops this dab in this absolutely incinerated red hot banger, dude. It's like he's dropping it into like a dwarven forge or some shit. Just completely fucked. And I take this dab and oh my god. The only praise I can give about red hot dabs is that they give you a whole lot of smoke. And this dab was no exception. I ripped this shit and was just completely blasted immediately. I started getting hot the moment I inhaled, probably because the smoke was double my body temperature. Way more than double, actually, probably like 4x. But I started getting hot immediately. The sweats developed on my forehead with a moment's notice. I mean, I'm talking, I was instantly from chilling on the couch looking pretty normal to I look like I just ran a 5K and I also kind of look like a tweaker. I'm sweating balls. My hair's starting to get a little wet from it. And this is before I'm even done taking the dab. I hadn't taken a big dab like this in so fucking long. I was not ready for that shit at all. So I exhale and there's still so much more left. I go back in, I rip it again. I'm trying my best. And by the time I'm halfway through my second attempt at ripping it, I'm coughing a lung up. So I keep having to pull back and cough and then go back in, hit it a little bit more, go back, cough. This process kept happening until finally I cleared the entire thing. Now I had my water with me, sure, but my god, that didn't do a thing. I couldn't stop coughing. Now, I'm coughing a lung up and I get up. I'm like, yo, hold on, dude. Let me just go to the bathroom real quick because I genuinely thought I was going to throw up from how hard I was coughing. I was coughing so hard I could barely breathe. So I go into the bathroom and I kneel over the toilet and I start coughing. And I'm like spitting a little bit. I'm salivating. I'm almost foaming at the mouth from this dab. Maybe there was a little rabies in it. Who knows? But either way, I'm like barely able to control myself and keep it together in this bathroom. And I'm kneeling in there for God knows how long. I mean, it could have been 15 or 20 minutes, but as I'm in there, the molly kind of starts hitting me. I didn't feel like this at first, and maybe it was the dab hitting me, but I think it was the molly. But either way, something changed, and I started feeling it in my body. That warmth that I was feeling was no longer me dab sweating, but the warmth was inside of me, if that makes sense. I started getting really hot, and I started feeling kind of almost like loose and uplifted. I'm trying to think of a good word to describe it. It was intense because it happened out of nowhere. One minute I was feeling like shit, coughing my lungs up, and the next minute it's like the spirit of Jesus came into me, dude, and I rose up from the toilet like I was about to speak to my disciples, dude. I rose straight up and I felt great and I walked right out of that bathroom. I was feeling fantastic. Now listen, don't hear this and be like, yo, dude, all I gotta do before my molly is take a giant dab of dookie. That's not what you should take from this. But that's exactly what happened to me. Now, I don't necessarily know why I felt this so quickly. I mean, realistically, it'd only been maybe 30 minutes since I initially dosed, but I really think it was the dab that just brought out the molly. So I go back into Michael's room where everyone else is chilling, and we are just having a ball. But pretty quickly, I realize after I sit down that I'm just getting started here. You see, I sit down and maybe 5 or so minutes go by, and this feeling of euphoria is just getting so intense to the point where I find myself sitting in a chair just staring at the wall. Mind you, we're watching shit on the TV. We got music videos going and stuff on YouTube, but I'm not paying any attention to that. I'm just staring at the wall. It's not like I have any visuals, but I'm feeling so good that I don't need to look at anything to be chilling, dude. I am just locked in. I'm so zoned out that I don't even really realize what's going on around me because I'm sitting there just thinking to myself, holy shit. It felt kind of like, when you go up those, like the Tower of Terror, and those drop rides, it felt like I was just constantly on the lift part, waiting to drop. I was sitting there and I was like, holy fuck, dude. The buildup, the anticipation, a little bit of anxiety almost. I hadn't been this high on anything since way before I gotten on probation. So this was insane to say the least. I could barely handle myself. Now we're sitting there and I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what the fuck happened for the next hour because I just completely locked up. I just sat on the couch. I didn't say shit. I didn't contribute to the conversation. This feeling of euphoria and a come up was so intense and my jaw started locking the fuck up. Now, I had never in my life had the jaw chattering shit on this low of a dose. The only times my jaw would lock up on the Molly is when I would take way higher doses, like a 0.2 or, double the dose that I just took. But I was sitting there and I was clenching my teeth. I'm sweating balls at this point, but I don't even notice it. I feel so fucking good. It wasn't until later in the night when my teeth started hurting a little bit and I had already come down that I was like, okay, maybe I clenched my jaw a little aggressively there, which is why people say to get gum when you do Molly. It's not a joke. Like, you really should get some gum. But either way, I'm sitting there just locked in. I couldn't tell you for how long this went on. It could have been like 30 minutes. It could have been an hour. I genuinely had no concept of time at this point because I was just in a different mind. I was in a different headspace. It was almost like I had just gotten extracted from the room. Like, my body was still there, but my mind and my spirit were like a couple blocks away at the fucking 7-Eleven, grabbing some drinks or something. I don't know, dude. But finally, I kind of came to a little bit again, and I was fucking lit. For some reason, I wasn't really processing much of the music that was going on, but it felt almost... It was almost like I snapped out of it in a weird way. Like, I came to and I started listening to the music that was playing on the TV, and I was like, oh, this song's fire, It reminded me a lot of my first time taking Molly, where I was really into the music. The euphoria was almost overwhelming, and it's probably because I just hadn't done this shit in so long. And also, this was some really, really good Molly, guys. Like, fantastic shit. I mean, beautiful, crystally. Oh my God. I was just dropping little rocks on my tongue for my 0.1. It was fantastic shit. But either way, I'm sitting there and I finally kind of snap out of it and come to a little bit and get back in the groove of things. Now we're chilling out, watching these music videos, chatting it up, and no one really said anything. It's not like anyone said like, oh, like Nick snapped out of it. I just kind of have a lapsed in like memory. I don't know what the fuck happened. All I remember is just getting locked in and just glued to the wall, but I don't remember what the fuck I was doing. I must have almost been on like autopilot or something because I was rolling so hard. But finally I came to and started feeling a little more normal and chilled out a little bit. And that's when we just took some bong rips for the evening and chilled out, and I slowly kind of started coming down. It was a very slow come down because the smoking alongside the rolling was really helping prolong things. My tolerance was so low that it was kind of like when you smoke weed on acid, it gets more intense. It was doing the same thing to me on Molly when normally it doesn't have that intense of an effect. I mean, I could chain smoke blunts when I'm rolling normally and it wouldn't do anything super crazy for me. But on this night, that was not the case whatsoever. So I slowly just kind of parachuted and coasted throughout the rest of the night. I parachuted the wrong term because I didn't dose again, but I coasted throughout the rest of the evening, just kind of taking some bong rips, bumping some music with the boys and chilling out. Finally, I was able to fully function again, and by this point, we had been together hanging out for so long, it was like 2 a.m. I had gotten there way earlier, well before midnight, so it was like 2 in the morning at this point, and I was pretty much sober besides being maybe a little bit stoned. Finally, everyone was starting to kind of disperse and do their thing and go home or decide to spend the night. I opted to just spend the night because I wanted to smoke some more weed, so I was like, yo, I just crash on your couch. And he's like, yeah, dude, honestly, I'm probably not even really going to sleep much tonight. So you can just crash in here and I'll just game or whatever. And I was like, sure, yeah, no problem. So I ended up trying to go to sleep, but I couldn't really fall asleep. So Michael and I just kind of stayed up smoking weed and playing games until like 6 a.m. And then I finally just drove back home and knocked out. It was a very fun evening, ladies and gentlemen. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And also, don't forget about the grinder drop coming this Saturday. More details will be on Twitter or Instagram. Only 50 will be available, so don't miss out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, gamers.